I'm Laura Paquette here with 5 ways to use phenomenology to improve your description. And you'll remember that phenomenology was the belief that there are real things, noumena, that we as humans can't really get to. Instead, we're receiving this phenomena, this sense experience from these things. So, first of all, we're going to see why novels tended to be so descriptive in the past. One is this is a time of great human suffering, of great change, and great confusion. But it's also this time of great hope and great human confidence. And also, these things were usually published in a newspaper or a periodical. So if you're only sending out, a chapter a week, you can get by with a lot more fluff. And we want people to read from chapter to chapter. We don't get that luxury. So basically everyone knows that Frankenstein kind of jumpstarts modern science fiction. This is in 1818, and at this time the Industrial Revolution is happening. So if you were born on a farm, you thought you knew how your life was going to turn up. You were going to be a farmer. You were going to marry one of these 20 women you knew. You knew everyone in your community. Everything is familiar to you. Everything has been in your family for generations. You might not be at the top of the ladder, but at least you had a place. And then all of a sudden you are in a city, and it is dirty, cramped, smelly. You are working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you are barely making ends meet. So there's this huge, crushing change that would just break down anyone's spirits. And then with the upper class, the British particularly, they're looking across and they're seeing the French Revolution, the French wars, and so they're very apprehensive of a war with France that has happened tons of the time in the past, but also of an internal revolution on their own shores, which, given the conditions, that is a legitimate fear. And then you see that Frankenstein is written within the Gothic tradition. So the Gothic tradition is going to take something like a cathedral or a castle, something that had meant safety, whether it's physical safety, whether it's a spiritual refuge, whether it's this place where all the art, all the education happens, and it's going to take it and it's going to make it strange and dark and wicked. But within Gothism is seated in the larger picture of Romanticism. And what Romanticism does is it takes people that had been on the fringes and it makes them important. It tries to showcase the beggars, the little boy whose face is so covered in soot that he's unrecognizable. And it tries to show that they have value. So I'm going to read real quickly a portion of Middlemarch by George Eliot, real name Mary Ann Evans. Miss Brooke had that kind of beauty which seems to be thrown into relief by poor dress. Her hand and wrists were so finely formed that she could wear sleeves not less bare of style than those in which the Blessed Virgin appeared to Italian painters, and her profile as well as her stature and bearing seemed to gain the more dignity from her plain garments, which by the side of provincial fashion gave her the impressiveness of a fine quotation from the Bible, or from one of our elder poets, in a paragraph of today's newspaper. So besides that being a long description of a beautiful woman, the point is that her beauty is intrinsically tied to her plainness, to her modesty of dress. Modesty here meaning modest in means, not necessarily like, button up. So Romanticism is trying to create that empathy for the people, and that's going to be something that's accomplished through description, almost as a sort of resume. Look at me, I can describe the world as it really is, and because I'm getting all these details right, because I can get the diagnosis correct, you can trust that I have a right solution. You can trust me when I say to treat these people better, that they're not going to revolt if we, help them up a little bit, that actually they're going to be grateful, and we're all going to live in peace and happiness. And yeah, that doesn't happen, because later on, by the time you get to Fellowship of the Ring, you've gotten farther from the French Revolution, you got farther from the Industrial Revolution, and there's a lot of good change. People are getting some more rights as workers, but also, suffrage for women, religious minorities, ethnic minorities. That's all, coming to pass. You also have all these great inventions that are making life easier. it to a point where people want to close the patent office because we did it, guys. Everything that will be made is made right now in 1900. Okay. But you still have this lingering sense of change. You've got Darwin publishing his Origin of Species, you've got German higher criticism. And these things are going to challenge what had been Europe's worldview for centuries. And so all these questions that had seemed settled, what is man? Why are we here? They're all being asked again. And this is going to come through in science fiction. So you see someone like H.G. Wells, and he creates a world in The Island of Dr. Moreau where people and are blent with animals, and they're quoting these trite religious cliches. And then you've also got later on in The Time Machine, he's writing where people are divided into these two classes of basically workers and upper class, and the workers are literally eating the upper class, and then everyone evolves into bacteria. So there's these huge questions of what are we, but at the same time there's still this sense of wonder and hope. You'll read something like Jules Verne, Around the World in 80 Days, and it's really written to sate people's curiosity. People are curious as to what we can do, so they want to see, even, this is not something that is just for the upper class. This is something that everyone wants to know about. What is it like in India? What is it like in America? What is it like to ride a train? Because we might not ever find out. So you've got all this mix of angst and confidence, and it comes to a point in World War One, and everyone now, every town is going to have men hobbling around, men coughing, just people that don't come home. And then all of a sudden, the next generation, you don't even have time to recover. Your sons are going to war too. The men who grew up hearing their fathers going to war, they're doing the same thing, and it's just, why are we doing this again? And looking back at it, we can of course say this was a worthy cause. If you're ever going to go to a war, stopping a genocide, that's a pretty great thing. But they didn't know that yet. All they knew is that people they loved are dying, and they also didn't know that they were going to win. There could have been the end, and that is, your civilization is gone. You are gone now. And this frustration, this angst, it's going to create this theory of absurdism. Absurdism is the belief that there is no intrinsic value in this world, there is no intrinsic meaning, but we humans are doomed to look for it anyway, and there's no answer. The only answer is to stay alive, keep living, and to live in that tension, to be brave enough to live through that comfort, through that discomfort and this frustration. That's all. Just keep living. And so speculative fiction, whether it's Frankenstein or Fellowship of the Ring, is created in this time where people are describing things in order to promote change, in order to learn about other people, and then also just because of the format. This is periodical. You can do what you want because you only get so many words in a chapter. And some of this has changed. We're not writing in periodicals anymore, but I think that people are still curious, and people are still reading in order to understand. But the questions we ask are going to be different, because just like, technology changed their world, it changed ours. If we want to know something, we can Google it. So when you're writing, you don't need to write about this laundry list of this tree is this high, it changes at this time of the year. This isn't a scientific periodical, which the Victorians were very interested in. The same people that are reading these early novels are also like devouring these scientific, very dry lists. So it might also just be a cultural thing. But so how do we take this knowledge and use it to write a description that helps answer questions for the people in our day and age? And there's 5 main points I'm going to go with, and it's show things how they actually appear. So you're not necessarily interested in this platonic ideal of a tree. If you close your eye and imagine the perfect tree, this is that tree. This is not what we're writing. We're writing how this tree actually appears in the world. Is it sickly? Is it a sapling? Has lightning smashed off one of its branches? Is it slick with frost or damp with dew? You can try the phenomenological concept of bracketing. Bracketing is when you forget everything you know about something for a short period of time, and you come to it again. as if you've never seen it before. And this is going to help you describe how something really is, as opposed to how you've been told it is. 2, you're going to show things in the context of the world. So if you've got something like a tree, it's not just a disembodied tree separate from the world. This tree is going to have, light shining through its branches, or maybe it's hidden in a moony fog. Maybe this tree has cultural or historical significance to the people around it. Maybe it's medicinal and useful. Maybe it's going to be hacked down in the Industrial Revolution. I don't know, it's your tree. 3rd, you're going to show how things appear to a specific character. And this has a lot of facets, because the character is going to come to things with their own baggage, with their own backgrounds. They're also going to come to it in a certain mood. The character themselves isn't just the platonic ideal of a character. They're the character who's just experienced whatever has gone ahead in these last 3 minutes. The past scene is going to affect how this character is thinking. The character is also going to describe things differently based on their own language and the words they have to describe things. Also, their motivations. What do they want? Are they trying to get something? Are they trying to flirt? Are they trying to deceive? These all mean something differently. And with that, who is their audience? If I, as a soldier, am talking about basic training, if I'm talking about to other soldiers versus how I talk to it about my mom, to my mom, it's going to be a huge difference. One, there's going to be grenades, and the other is just going to be Guns and Roses. I don't know. So how a character is interacting with the world, how this character is feeling in a given moment, what is the character's intentions, all these things are going to come out in how a character describes something. 4thly, you can use different descriptions, different people describing something, in order to flesh out the world, to flesh out the people that are doing the describing, and to set tone. So if you remember the eidetic reduction, we talked about it in another video, but Descartes noted this block of wax. He noted the texture, the temperature, the color. He lit it, and all these properties change, but its essential nature remained the same. So the eidetic reduction is the idea that you can know more about something, you can come to something's essential nature by putting it through all these different variations and change. It's why you want to show, especially your main characters, in a variety of contexts, because that fleshes them out. But having different characters describe something shows how these characters are different, while also setting up the world, showing it from different angles, just making it seem more real. 5thly, is that you cannot describe every single tree like this. If you are doing that, then no one's going to get past the first page. So instead, you have to know what is important to your story, what is important to the plot, what is important to the characters, and focus on that, and otherwise let your readers come to it themselves. And, if you say, there was a tree, I know what a tree is, so unless this is essential to the plot or to the characters, you can just leave it at that. So, to sum up, you want to show things how they are to a specific character, given their specific mood, given their specific motivations, at a specific time. And you also want to know what is important, what is essential, what should you describe, and then what should you just let slip by. As a bonus, you might want to revolt against France to get those creative juices flowing. So, if you enjoyed this, hit like and subscribe.